Welcome back to another Pokemon Scarlet and Violet Wi-Fi battle. It is your boy Daddymac, and today we're doing things a little bit differently. I actually forgot to turn my microphone on when I pressed the record button on this particular video you're watching. So today we're doing things a little bit differently. I'm actually going to be reacting and kind of commentating on my video as opposed to doing it live. So we're still commentating, we're still reacting, but it's not live. So I think that takes away from the authenticity just a little bit, but I really wanted to showcase this Wi-Fi battle to you before we take a deep dive. So in this specific Wi-Fi battle, we are against your boy Jay, who's bringing a really cool team. Corviknight, Sylveon, I thought was a really cool Pokemon on this team, and Empoleon is another cool one. We got 3 starters on this team: Empoleon, Meowscarada, Skeledirge, and yeah, that's all of them. And then my opponent is bringing a Dragapult on top of that. So it looks to be an interesting Wi-Fi battle. We are bringing a new team. This is Wi-Fi Battle 2 with this new team. It's featured and built around an Emboar with the Choice Band. So it's a really fun team, at least in my opinion. Emboar is one of my favorite Pokemon, and it hits like an absolute truck, and you're really going to see that in this Wi-Fi battle. And that's why I did not want to redo this battle and why I really wanted to showcase this specific battle. So Jay versus Alvin. I forgot my introduction. So if you have not already, subscribe to the channel. You're gonna want to be in tune. You're gonna want to watch all of our videos because we are on the road to probably not 100 Wi-Fi battles, but maybe 90, 88, somewhere around there. And comment down below. So my opponent does lead with the Meowscarada. I'm gonna go ahead and start with Corviknight to start things off. And here, I decided to body press, and the reason why is because I figured my opponent was gonna U-turn. I didn't think I had to U-turn, so I figured, hey, if my opponent decides to stay in and play bold, I'm just gonna go ahead and body press here. And that's exactly what we're gonna go ahead and do. I don't remember exactly what Pokemon my opponent comes into. It's the Corviknight. Okay, so here it becomes a little bit of a body press, a little bit of a mirror match, and my opponent does have the Rocky Helmet. In this specific Corviknight, I am not running Rocky Helmet, which is not ordinary if you are an existing viewer of my channel. So I decided, you know what, this Corviknight is not gonna, I can't get through this Corviknight with just body presses considering it has a Rocky Helmet. So I decided to U-turn out of here. And then here I kind of decide to play things a little bit differently. So I start to think to myself, what are my opponent's possible options? I don't have a lot of safe switch-ins for Corviknight except for Gengar, but I did not want to go into the Gengar in case Meowscarada comes in, or even the Dragapult. So I decide to play it bold, and this is what makes Emboar such a beautiful Pokemon. So I'm thinking through my thought process here. I ultimately decide I'm gonna go to the Emboar, and the reason behind that is because in the back, my opponent has Corviknight on board. So if I predict, or if I'm my opponent, I predict a Flare Blitz, I'm gonna go into the Skeledirge, right? This is why you see me kind of thinking about going into the Gengar, but weighing all the options, I really don't think it's feasible for me to go into the Gengar considering my opponent's back choices. So here comes the shiny Emboar, one of my favorite shiny Pokemon, by the way. And I'm kind of looking, and I say, you know what? We're gonna play it very bold, because if I'm my opponent, he's gonna switch into the Skeledirge. So we kind of waited out a little bit. I did not mind my opponent staying into the Corviknight because this was going to do a lot of damage anyways. And just like we figured, Jay sends out the Skeledirge. And if you have ever underestimated Emboar, you need to stop underestimating this boy, because it one-shots a Skeledirge. And you all know how I feel about Skeledirge. Unfortunately for me, we do take half of the damage in recoil, so our HP gets basically cut in half. I am Choice Banded. My opponent is going to come out into, if I'm not mistaken, the Corviknight again, and I am not in a position to really stay in, especially after chopping my HP in half with a head smash. I don't remember if my opponent does decide to go Skeledirge here or something else, but I do recall I switch out here, and I ultimately bring the Emboar back in later and do some stuff with it, which we'll leave for later. So yeah, my opponent sends out Meowscarada. I think my opponent does go into the Meowscarada here, and yeah, they do. So here I'm gonna go back into the Corviknight. I quickly realized my opponent cannot touch my Corviknight without a Skeledirge. They can probably touch it with the Dragapult depending on the set. So I'm gonna go into the Corviknight here. And my opponent goes and play roughs. Unfortunately for my opponents, if I'm not mistaken, they miss. Yeah, they definitely miss. And then here, I'm just going to take an opportunity to roost. I want to keep this wall as healthy as possible. You guys know how I play. We keep our walls healthy out here. So I'm going to go ahead and roost. My opponent might either A, U-turn, or hard switch. And here, they show me that they're either banded, they're scarf, they're something. So they go back out into the Corviknight, and this is actually perfect for me. So I'm going to go ahead and roost here. And I don't remember what I do here. I don't remember if I U-turn and go into the Embor or if I body press into it. I kind of, in hindsight, okay, now that I remember, my opponent outsped me on the last turn, so I went ahead and hit the U-turn. I was hoping for him to either outspeed or for me to lose the speed tie, because this is going to allow me to go back into the Embor, and this is exactly how we're going to get rid of this Corviknight. So I figured, you know what, Corviknight is on the field. My opponent doesn't really have anything that wants to take a Flare Blitz from a reckless choice banded Embor. That's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to hit him with the Flare Blitz. I did not decide to terrestrialize here, as you can see me contemplating, because Embor's HP was already half, and a Flare Blitz would have just absolutely wrecked me. So my opponent stays in for whatever reason. I don't know why. I take Rocky Helmet damage, and then I take some mad recoil after that Flare Blitz. I don't think it's enough to take me out. Yeah, it's enough to take me out. This is a double KO. And then I don't know what my opponent's going to go out into. So they have the Empoleon, they got the Dragapult, and they got the Meowscarada, if I'm not mistaken. And there's one more Pokemon that I'm forgetting about right now, a Sylveon. So I'm kind of like, okay, what do I go into? I think this is a perfect opportunity for us to go into the Araquanid and set up our webs. And you're going to see me go into Araquanid. And then, unbeknownst to me, my opponent decides to go into Meowscarada. And I'm like, okay, this isn't too bad of a switch. I can actually stay in, but I quickly realize Empoleon is a thing I can probably just defog my webs. If that's the case, so be it. I'm gonna go ahead and just hit the sticky web here. I don't know what kind of set this Empoleon is running, so I decided to go for the sticky web here, and I don't know what my opponent's gonna do. My opponent does an ultimately U-turn. I figured that Araquanid can take whatever attack Meowscarada wants to throw, and I still set up my webs, and that's why I decided to stay put. So here my opponent does decide to go into the Dragapult. I set up my sticky web. It's perfect. I really wanted to set up the sticky webs before my opponent even goes into the Dragapult, and the worst part about this is I don't know what Dragapult this is, so I have to stay in, which puts me in a little bit of a tough spot. My opponent does decide to go for a Draco Meteor, and here it tells me that he's got to be a special attacker. This is really cool. My opponent has an Eject Pack Dragapult. I thought that was a really cool strategy. Now, with this in mind, I have absolutely nothing to switch into or switch out of. So I decide to Mirror Coat here. And the reason behind that is because I said if it is a special Dragapult, I at least want to do some kind of damage in case my opponent decides to U-turn or go into the Empoleon, or just hits me with mad damage with the Draco Meteor. So sure thing, my opponent goes into the Empoleon, they get stuck in the sticky web. That's exactly what we're wanting. Everything outspeeds this Empoleon, but it has competitive, and I'm like, okay, this is a little bit of a problem. Lucky for me, Mirror Coat does a lot of damage, and I got the Kingambit in the back who's about to destroy this Empoleon in its entire being. I decide to save Araquanid in case it wants to go for a defog. So I say I'm gonna go into the Kingambit. My Kingambit God's Defiant, and unfortunately for me, my opponent goes for the boost. So now we got a bulky Empoleon that's at +2, and I'm like, you know what, Kingambit is a beast. I'm just gonna simply take this Empoleon out. I don't remember what I was contemplating. I think I was contemplating on really hitting the Kotao Cleave, especially because the Sylveon is in the back, but I quickly remembered that Sticky Webs is up, and really my opponent doesn't really want to take anything from Kingambit. Doesn't want to take any Kotao Cleaves, doesn't want to take any Sucker Punches, doesn't want to take any Iron Heads. So we're in a really good spot right here. So our Kingambit decides to go for the Kotao Cleave, and Empoleon goes down in one shot basically, which is perfect for us. And we got the upper hand here because my opponent now has the Dragapult to go out to, the Sylveon, or the Meowscarada. And I think we're perfect in all three counts here because, you know, my Kingambit can take whatever attack it wants for a Meowscarada and then counteract. So here I decide to hit the terrestrialization. I want to make sure I get the knockout, and I don't know why I doubted a knockout here, because a Sucker Punch from a Kingambit would have definitely knocked out this Dragapult. So I'm just gonna terrestrialize here. I actually was slightly afraid of him moving and, you know, knocking me out with a flamethrower or something. So I decided to just terrestrialize and sucker punch here. And the Dragapult goes down in a single shot. So Dragapult, which is probably the biggest threat in my opponent's team, went down fairly easily. And now I'm in the best shape of my life. So here, Meowscarada is a little bit of a problem, especially considering that it has the play rough that it showed to us earlier. So here I'm kind of hoping for my opponent to just go into the Sylveon, and they really do. And I'm like, okay, why in the world would he even go into Sylveon here and not the Meowscarada to force a switch in or something like that? So I'm like, okay, you want to go into the Sylveon? I'm simply going to Iron Head. And sure enough, Kingambit takes down the Sylveon. And this is why people are afraid of late game Kingambit, because it can really just take over a game. And this is not even a Supreme Overlord Kingambit, it's just a regular Defiant Kingambit with Sword Dance and whatnot. So Meowscarada comes out, and I'm not really scared of this thing. And I'm like, if he wants to take me out with the play rough, he totally can. I'm gonna just stay into the Kingambit here. And I decide to Iron Head in case it does want to go for a play rough and one-shot me. I don't know why my opponent didn't go into the play rough. Kind of thinking about it now, my opponent is probably scarfed or banded and doesn't want to deal with my Corviknight, and he ultimately terrestrializes and locks himself into the flower trick, which Corviknight would have just eaten up anyways. So it's a done deal. We ultimately win it here. Kingambit takes, it's a crit, it's a dub, and an Iron Head basically almost gets rid of this thing, and a Sucker Punch will definitely do it. So that's Kingambit for you, and I am definitely using this footage for a video that you guys are going to be watching next week. At least I hope that we'll talk about the best competitive Pokemon in Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. I really think Kingambit is one of the best Pokemon that you can bring to any team. It's just so versatile. And then it's got the Defiant, it's got the Supreme Overlord, it does some damage, it's got the Sword Dance. So you can really do whatever you want with Kingambit. But there you have it, that's the Wi-Fi battle. It is your boy Daddymac. I hope you enjoyed this Wi-Fi battle. This is a little bit different even for me, like commentating. I could have probably prepared a little bit more, but you know me, I wing it. We record on the first take, and that's what we do. But it's your boy Daddymac. See you guys next time.